amazing day, everyone! It's nice to have you again for another episode of New Discoveries, Learning, and Adventures. But before we begin, let us first have a short review of the lessons that we had last week. In the previous Philomazing episode, we learned about epistemology and the nature of knowledge. Second, we learned how to acquire and validate knowledge. Then, we learned how to distinguish truth from opinion. And lastly, we were introduced to the different theories of truth. I hope that you remembered all the lessons from our previous episode. And now, prepare your pen and paper and get yourselves ready for another Philomazing adventure. Oh, there you are. I have been playing this game for a while and I want to share it with you. Do you want to play this game with me? Of course you do. Come on, let's G! This is a guessing game. You will be given 4 clues and all you have to do is guess the word being described. You will be given 10 seconds to give your answers. Let's G! Number 1. A person can be of any gender. A professional creates a lesson plan. The answer is a teacher. Good job! Number 2. It is black. It cannot be touched. It follows you. It moves the way you do. If you answered shadow, you're right. Number 3. It begins with the letter F. It is a noun. It is something Jose Rizal fought for. It is something related to speech. If your answer is freedom, you're Philomazing. Kudos! You guessed all the words correctly. But how did you identify the answers? Are the descriptions given enough? How do we really draw conclusions based on descriptions or statements? The answers to these questions and more are what we have for you in today's episode. I'm Teacher Jossa, your goddess maestra. And this is the 5th episode of the Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person. Truth is one of the most significant lessons in philosophy. It has been a topic of discussion in its own right for many years. Moreover, the values and influences on lives cannot be denied. In the game that we played earlier, we applied different methods in order to guess the word or concept being described. We call them methods of philosophizing. Methods of philosophizing are different processes of determining the truth or drawing conclusions from statements using various philosophical methods. This would equip us with knowledge and skills in acquiring wisdom and truth. Unlike science that uses observations through experiments in proving a theory, philosophy utilizes pure reasoning in order to investigate a certain reality or phenomenon to arrive at a certain truth. Philosophers generally believe that reason is the road to wisdom. However, they have different interpretations of what reason consists of. And some philosophers even challenge the preeminence of reason in the pursuit of wisdom. Now, let us discover the 4 methods of philosophizing with the use of different scenarios you probably have already experienced.
Can anyone from the class give me a concrete definition of the word love? Yes, Miss Giko.
Sir, love is kind and love is patient.
Ooh. I think she is in love. Who else? How about you, Mr. Lendisha?
Kindness is the quality of being friendly, generous, or considerate, while patience is an act of bearing different situations without any complaint. Therefore, love is about sacrifices and consideration.
Okay, very good, Mr. Lendicha.
In the given scenario, Teacher Joshua kept asking students about their responses to a certain question. What he did is called Socratic Questioning. It is a type of interrogative statement that clarifies points through understanding the deeper meaning of a claim. The Socratic method, also known by the Greek term elenchus, that means to inquire or cross-examine, is an exchange of ideas using Socratic questioning. It was developed by Socrates, a Greek philosopher and teacher who laid the groundwork for Western systems of philosophy and logic. This method has been emphasized to use statement deconstructions and creative questioning to delve deeper into an issue. It is a systematic process whereby random and ambiguous ideas are eliminated to reach a sound conclusion. Therefore, reaching an endpoint would only mean that the truth has been realized and new knowledge has been acquired.
Hey, which mode of learning do you think is better? Face-to-face or online learning?
Well, I think online learning is better. You don't have to go out anymore. Just wake up, prepare a little, and turn your gadgets on. And voila! Onto your classes, right? I guess face-to-face is better. It is more interactive inside a classroom, and through that, we can be more guided and we can learn more.
But in online classes, you do not have to travel anymore. Traffic is really tiring.
So, while you are already saving energy, you are also saving money. Plus, staying at home is more convenient.
But how about health? Can too much screen time also make us sick? Lack of exercise, being seated all day in front of our gadgets, cell phones is also a major concern. And if there are technical difficulties, the classes will be interrupted. At least, in face-to-face, we get to interact, communicate, and see each other.
Well, you have a point. If online learning is a better way, they would have implemented it right before the pandemic.
Tama naman, Entis. Gutom na ako.
Sige na.
How did your classmates come up with that conclusion? What do you call the process that led them to do so? In the previous scenario, your two classmates were able to conclude that face-to-face is better than online learning, after having analyzed the facts that they presented to each other using the process called dialectic method. The term dialectic comes from the Greek word dialektike, which means the act of conversation. It is the act of talking back and forth, disagreeing with one another, and coming up with a conclusion from an exchange of contradicting arguments. This method can easily be seen in the different day-to-day interactions of people. It is much like a debate that poses two clashing but valid arguments to determine an endpoint that is correct and true. In this sense, the truth of both arguments is always expected to rise from each conversation.
Today, we are going to do a simple experiment using one of our favorite drinks, milk tea. So first, let us mix the milk tea syrup and water. This is called a homogeneous mixture. This time, let's add pearls to the mixture. See, it did not dissolve. This is called a heterogeneous mixture.
Doing experiments is standard in science classes. In the previous scenario, knowing whether a mixture is heterogeneous or homogeneous can easily be done by performing a simple test. This involves the process of experimentation and observation, referred to as the scientific method of philosophizing. The term science is derived from the Latin word scientia, which means to produce knowledge. The process begins with an idea about any given topic. Hypothesis testing is done to prove the validity of this idea. This method leads to wisdom and truth because it uses an evidence-based approach to come up with its conclusion. In this method, all truths are supported by facts that can be easily tested or proven again through experiments, logical reasoning, or observation. The knowledge and truth gained from the scientific method are assured to come directly from valid conclusions.
Okay, class, I hope you are all proud of the fact that Philippines has a rich culture and heritage. Okay, for your assignment, class assignment, you are going to write a research paper on how history here in the Philippines came to be.
Now, if you were to read that particular history book to know how the Philippines ended up with such a unique culture, then you just applied the historical method. Historical pieces of evidence are derived from records of the past. The term history is from the Greek word iotopia, which means to investigate or to find out. The historical method is the process of gathering evidence, examining them, and formulating ideas about the past to come up with present truth. As histories unfold and reflect patterns, assumptions and prejudices exist as if to point recorded recurrences. Thus, following this logic, the process of learning takes place by simply looking through past records to validate the present hypothesis. Philosophizing involves the gift of speech and the gift of intelligence that enable us to reason out and detect the falsity or truthfulness of a statement. When one reasons out, one expresses his opinion, and when others disagree, then the argument begins. However, there are arguments that are erroneous or based on faulty reasoning called fallacies. Simply put, fallacies are not just false beliefs. They are logical errors in argumentation, reasoning, explanation, rhetoric, or debate. Identifying fallacies is an important aspect of our lives. Without being able to identify false reasoning, humans can resort to all kinds of harmful beliefs with dreadful consequences. This time, we will enumerate the different types of fallacies. We will elaborate them further and apply in real-life scenarios. First, argumentum ad hominem, or attacking the person. Hominem came from the Latin word homo, which means man. This fallacy literally means hitting the person below the belt, instead of focusing on the issue at hand. Example, how can we believe that the food in the canteen is good? The vendor's eyebrows form one straight line. Second, argumentum ad baculum, or appeal to force. Baculum is a Latin word which means scepter or stick. A scepter is a symbol of authority. A known illustration of this can be the Pope in the Catholic religion. This is committed when a person uses threats or force to advance an argument. Example, I am the group leader. Believe me or I will remove you from the group. But remember, threats imply negative results. We must always consider other people's voices and not disregard their feelings and views. In that manner, we will not be misconstrued to be taking advantage of others. Third, Argumentum ad misericordiam, or appeal to pity. Misericordiam came from the Latin word misericordia, which means pity or compassion. A person appeals to one's emotion instead of objectively arguing. Example, "Forgive me, officer, but we really don't have enough money these days. That's why I chose to buy food instead of buying a face mask." It is true that this pandemic has turned many lives upside down. But let us not use this as an excuse not to follow specific rules that have an effect on our own safety. Fourth, Argumentum ad populum, or appeal to people or bandwagon. Fallacy populum is the Latin word for people. Most TV commercials present this argument, which exploit people's vanity, desires, etc. Example, "Everyone is getting a new iClone 12 when it comes out this weekend. Why aren't you?" Of course, everyone will have their own preferences, but we must always remember to think critically before doing, acting, and deciding on things. Fifth, Argumentum ad traditio, or appeal to tradition. Traditio means tradition, advancing an idea since it has been practiced for a long time. Example, Filipinos believe that if a spoon or fork falls on the floor, an unexpected female or male guest will come. These traditions are all around us. Some may be true and others may not. Let us keep in mind that traditions are part of our rich culture, so we must always respect other people's beliefs. Sixth, Argumentum ad ignorantiam, or appeal to ignorance. Ignorantiam is a Latin word which means ignorance. Whatever has not been proven false must be true, and vice versa. Example, COVID-19 is airborne because nobody appeals that it is not. But then again, let us always be mindful that ignorance can have unintentional consequences. Making incorrect decisions could lead to worse outcomes in the future. Seventh, petitio principii, or begging the question. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it is a fallacy in which a conclusion is taken for granted based on a premise, which is also called a circular argument. For example, no one is permitted to use the school gymnasium during weekends, since students are permitted to use the gymnasium only on weekdays. Remember, circular reasoning gets you nowhere. And those are the different fallacies we are all guilty of. I hope you would apply those lessons about fallacies in your daily lives and interactions. Nowadays, some people intentionally employ some faulty reasoning to convince others. That is when we become victims of the so-called misinformation and disinformation, or for example, fake news. These days, we can easily access information online, but most of it comes from unreliable sources. It enables everyone to spread information they want using internet. Everyone needs to understand that internet is an open source of ideas that are potentially bound for biases, political, cultural, etc. The result is a world wide web of raw and verified information. It is important to validate information from multiple sources. This is where information literacy comes in. In considering different kinds of sources or sites, Robert Harris a professor of English at Southern California College, suggests that students should ask themselves, which sources are likely to be fair, objective, lacking hidden motives, and showing quality control. Robert Harris recommends selecting sites that include as many of the following as possible: the author's name, title, and position, the site's organizational affiliation, if any, the date the page was created or updated, contact information such as email or snail mail address. Once students have located sources that appear appropriate and credible, Harris advises students to subject these sites to the CARS or CARS checklist for informational quality. The 4 components of the CARS checklist are credibility. What about this source makes it believable? Accuracy. Is the information provided up to date, factual, detailed, exact, and comprehensive? Reasonableness. Is the information fair, objective, moderate, and consistent? Support. Can the information be corroborated? To understand those further, we have a special guest from the Philippine Association of Media and Information Literacy. Let us hear some words from Vice President Mr. Arniel Ping.
Hi everyone, I am Mr. Arniel Ping. I'm here to share 3 questions that can serve as practical guide in evaluating online sources. Number 1, can you trust the source? When you are searching for information online, a trusted website is always your best option. What is the domain extension? Is it .edu, .gov, .org, .net, or .com? The domain extension will provide you with information about the general characteristics of the website. What is the URL? Be careful because there are imposter websites or pages. Is the website well maintained or updated? If there are too many broken links, it is an indication that the site is not maintained regularly. Who are the people or organizations behind the website? If this information is missing, it's a red flag. What kind of information is being published by the website and what is their purpose or motivation? Is it to educate, entertain, or something else? Number 2, is it the appropriate source for the information you need? If you need information on current events, get it from the website of known and legitimate news organizations or government agencies authorized to release such information. According to a survey made by the Social Weather Station in 2019, an estimated 13.9 million Filipino adults use Facebook as a source of their daily news. If you get your news from social media, let's say on Facebook, you have to follow and like Facebook pages of known and legitimate news organizations so that their news will appear on your news feed. However, you should not just wait for the news to appear in your news feed. You need to go after your news and get it from trusted sources. Lastly, what different sources can provide you the needed information? You need to get your information from different sources. This will enable you to cross-check or verify information from multiple sources.
Thank you for being with us, Mr. Arniel Ping, and for those insightful pieces of advice. And that's it. That marks the end of today's Philomazing Discovery. I'm sure you got a lot of takeaways that will help you in your daily quest for truth and knowledge. Tune in for our next Philomazing episode as we continue to discover more about the wonderful world of philosophy. I'm Teacher Jossa, your goddess maestra. See you again for more Philomazing discoveries, learning, and adventures.